Hello and welcome to this Oak Tree English video on self-reflection for teachers. This is in part to satisfy the criteria of the Diploma in Education and Training. In this video, we're going to define self-reflection in the teaching process, what it means, and consider its purpose. Then we're going to critically examine and compare three models, specifically those of Schoen, Brookfield, and Hindmarch. So what is self-reflection, and why does it deserve its own Oak Tree English video? Well, Scott Thornbury, in his A to Z of ELT, summarises reflective teaching as being able to think critically about experience, to identify problems, and to reframe these problems. End quote. It's sometimes represented as a cycle with no definite starting or ending point. David Kolb labelled this cycle do, feel, watch, think, though other words have surrounded and expanded on this idea. This is applicable both to our students and ourselves as educational practitioners. For example, imagine that I taught a bad lesson. I know it's hard to imagine, but it is possible. It happens to all of us at some point in our careers. I might feel as though the lesson was getting away from me and that something needs to change. I would then watch to see if the students had noticed and what effect it was having on the class dynamic. Then I would think about it, possibly late at night, unable to sleep. The next time I taught that group or that lesson, I would have altered my lesson plan to counteract the problems I identified. It would feel better. The students would react to a lesson plan more geared for their needs. And that night, I would sleep like a baby, without being tortured by nightmares of bemused students asking questions I can't answer. So self-reflection is learning from our mistakes, and its purpose is to maximize on our potential. There are a number of big names in this field. One is Donald Schoen. He explains his methodology in his 2002 text, The Reflective Practitioner. He divides the reflective process into two broad experiences, reflecting in action and reflecting on action. What a difference a vowel makes. Reflecting in action is your experience at the front of a class when you recognise that you are trying to teach about, for example, an advanced piece of grammar and they're struggling to formulate a sentence correctly. Do you choose to stop the class and act out the use of an auxiliary verb? Or do you simplify the task that they have and dedicate the next lesson to their missing knowledge? The other side of that coin is reflecting on action. This is what you do late at night when the weight of your responsibility is pressing itself upon your drowsy mind. This can be avoided by reflecting upon your performance in the cold light of day. You would step back and look at both what happened and why. You'll think of ways to do it differently. This would feed into your next lesson plan and include strategies to manage any problematic element that may reoccur. It will also give you a chance to see if any of the teaching commentators and theorists have come across your experience and have written about it in a way to give you hope and direction. Well, that's Schoen. Stephen Brookfield takes an optician's perspective on attaining excellence through critical reflection. In his 1995 book, Becoming a Critically Reflective Teacher, cunning title, it was revised in 2017, but contains basically the same idea. He suggests reflecting on your performance through 4 different lenses. These are your own eyes, your colleagues' eyes, your learner's eyes, and expert eyes. Your own perspective, called the autobiographical lens, is similar to Kolb or Schoen's ideas of self-reflection, but he recognizes that this may not be strictly accurate. Just as an anorexic may have a false impression of their appearance when looking in a mirror, so a teacher can have a false self-image which will inform the conclusions they draw about their own performance. This could be an overly critical impression, leading them to try and fix what ain't broke, or an overinflated ego, like myself, believing themselves to be beyond critique and thus not addressing what is decidedly broke. Many of us can think of those students who have ingrained bad habits or beliefs which prevent them from taking correction. Within my field of EFL, it could be due to being taught by non-native speakers at school, or having lived in an environment where bad grammatical and pronunciation habits are the norm. For a student to address these, they may have to come to terms with the fallibility of old authorities, including parents, school teachers, and respected community leaders. This can be a very hard pill to swallow. And how many of our assumptions about our profession are founded on information from when we were children or newly qualified? For this reason, we need to seek the input of other eyes. Your colleagues will have an opinion of your teaching style. You may need to brace yourself for it, but asking a peer mentor to observe one of your lessons can be a very eye-opening experience. You must choose someone who you trust to be reasonably impartial, so they don't use it as an opportunity to either massage your ego or to assassinate your character, both of which are not helpful to reflecting on your teaching craft. Drawing on the expertise and experience of your colleagues can provide the contrast and objectivity you need to become a better teacher and student. The most important person in any classroom is neither the teacher nor an observer, but the student. This voice is therefore the most important one to listen to. The voice may be there in their results, their attendance, their demeanour, or expressed opinions. A teacher's mere presence can change the dynamic of a group, so this set of data can be collected by a third party, or an anonymous survey, or by observation. Students' opinions will, as previously discussed, have many presuppositions which will colour them, including characteristics, culture, background, age and level of intelligence. For this reason, these first three should be considered in combination and not in isolation. The final lens is more objective and thus a largely reliable metric to gauge a certain aspect of one's teaching. That is, by holding it up to the yardstick of the theoretical literature. If you've made it this far through the video, well done. You're probably aware of some of the scholarship which surrounds the world of teaching. The various theories can put a framework around your experience and can also lead you to reassess your approach and even suggest ways that you can adapt and improve to address the particular situation in which you find yourself. This will also improve your teaching portfolio by trying out different techniques. So that's Brookfield's 4 lenses. Finally, we get to Duncan Hindmarch or Hindmarch. He has a sense of humour because he called his book A Concise Guide. When it's one of the longest citations I've ever had to type out. Look at all those names and look how long the title is. A Concise Guide to Lecturing in Higher Education and the Academic Professional Apprenticeship. What? Why not just call it lecturing? That would be concise. Sorry, Mr. Hindmarch. he and his friends came up with another model for self-reflection with some amusing titles. In contrast to Brookfield's personal perspectives and Schoen's slimmed down in and on reflections, they concentrate on the stage of the process at which the reflection occurs. They whimsically call this model PREP, which stands for preflect, reflect, engage, and, postflect. I told you about the sense of humour. Preflection occurs in the planning stages and asks you to prepare your lessons and predict your outcomes. You are encouraged to seek the experience and expertise of colleagues and scholars at this stage. Reflections occur after the event and leads you to ask of yourself the questions: what happened? How effective? What results? Engage is the stage at which you collect feedback from others, including colleagues and students. And postflection is when you formulate a plan from the data that you have collected. You may use this opportunity to learn additional skills or methods from others' experience. This rumination will feed into the next preflection, or planning stage. This is, to a large degree, a synthesis of the first two approaches to self-reflection. It combines and expands Schoen's emphasis on the stages of the lesson with Brookfield's lenses, and even includes Kolb's experiential cycle, which was alluded to briefly at the beginning of this video. The distinction is with the order of events. In Kolb's model, you can start anywhere and progress ad infinitum. Brookfield does not set any order of importance or time when his lenses should be applied, whereas Hindmarch and Gang's model charts progress of the process with a beginning and an end. I hope you've enjoyed this video and that it has adequately explained the purpose of self-reflection in the teaching process and critically compared 3 models. If so, please remember to like, share and subscribe to Oak Tree English.